Hey guys, it's Mitch. How's it going? We're back for another spooky season special. This may not specifically be a spooky story per se, but it references Halloween directly in the title, and I'm running out of trade paperbacks. So we're going to take a look today at Batman The Long Halloween by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. So I do remember the Jeff Loeb-Tim Sale team-up starting in the mid-90s, or at least becoming like a marketing force in the mid-90s, with Superman for All Seasons, and then them going into the color books over at Marvel, like Daredevil Yellow, Hulk Gray, Spider-Man Blue, all that stuff. I was well out of the superhero stuff at that point. I figured there was nothing that looked particularly cool, and by look cool, I mean the art. It was tough to find great-looking superhero comics. That was kind of what I got into comics for, was like Jim Lee and Whilce Portacio drawing X-People. So when stuff like Batman The Long Halloween started getting popular, it wasn't anything that flew on my radar at all. Batman has never been on my radar. Like, I know there's the odd cool Batman story, there's the odd cool Superman story. I'm sure there's a decent Wonder Woman story or Green Lantern or something somewhere, but I'm not sure enough to spend money on it on somebody else's word. So this volume I got around that time when I was trying to get back into comics and I was trying to read all sorts of stuff that basically I should have read at some point in the past. And this was one of those rare moments when I saw enough times on, Reddit, whatever list I was looking at, the title, The Long Halloween, like as a favorite. It's like, okay, maybe I should check that out. And I know I read it in its entirety, but I don't really remember it making any kind of impression, so I guess I didn't take much from it. On a second look through here, I'm thinking I must have just zipped through it and read it with a sense of grudging obligation or something for it to not sink in, because taking another look at it, this book is fucking fantastic. I still don't give too much of a shit about the Batman stuff specifically. I'm thinking particularly about the story, which is involved and intricate, and it's noir, which I love. I love me a good noir story. And the art, which I haven't seen much Tim Sale stuff. So this is all from the perspective of a guy who's catching up on, Tim Sale and Jeff Loeb Batman stuff long after everybody else has. So just bear that in mind. And I remember seeing Tim Sale's style on the ads for Superman for All Seasons and thinking, that's a weird looking style. Do people actually like that style? And honestly, I'm not even 100% sure that it works for Superman, because the thing I like the most about Tim Sale's style, like the style specifically, is the amount of shadow he works into everything. He seems to be very influenced by, if not Frank Miller, then directly from the source with Jose Munoz, because his work with black and white is kind of spectacular. Like, this did not have to be a color comic. It would still be excellent if it was just the black and white. So apart from the style, which again, I like, it's certainly grew on me very quick as I started to read this. I absolutely love the way Tim Sale sets up a page. His page designs are fucking wild. There are way more double page splashes and splash pages in this than I ever expected. And he's doing weird, funky panel designs, playing around with all the white space. He's got Dutch angles going every which way, keeping things energetic. And there's a clarity to the storytelling that I was not aware Tim Sale was focused on. But like I said, there's multiple double-page splashes. And I'm pretty sure every issue. I just read the first couple of issues of this to catch up on it. Now I think I need to do a deep dive of some kind. Because the art, like I said, kind of floored me. For a guy who, I don't know, didn't have a whole lot of faith in Tim Sale, I guess. Really, the only Tim Sale I've seen in detail is his work on Deathblow, which is fine, and weird sometimes. But it didn't feel like it was anywhere near this. So the story on this one, this basically picks up not too long after Batman Year One drops off, which I like. If you're familiar with that story, it's instantly recognizable as being from that, just the next period. You see that pre-Two-Face Harvey Dent. You see Jim Gordon's relationship with his wife, and he's got his young daughter, who was, of course, at the end of the Year One story. And you're like, okay, I know exactly where we are. But, look at this shit, eh? That's an incredible page. We're talking crazy angle, we're talking silhouettes and framing, because, the killer here... The story for this particular volume, if you're not familiar, this is the origin of Two-Face, in part. It's also, from what I understand, basically the introduction of supervillains to Gotham City. It starts with the Roman, Carmine Falcone, and his immediate rival, And they're the big forces in Gotham at the time, like classic gangster stuff. But Bruce Wayne, having, access to a persona that can act in what he perceives to be the city's best interests, right? He basically works himself into a position where he has more power on the board of directors of the banks than anybody else, or at least enough veto power that he can halt Carmine Falcone from using the banks to launder his money anymore. So there's that. There's Batman going after Carmine Falcone's interests, and Falcone has to bring in outside help in the form of supervillains. So the Joker, the Penguin, I know Poison Ivy makes an appearance in this. Solomon Grundy's in here. So that part's interesting, but that is just backdrop, because the main story is that some themed killer is going around and whacking all of Falcone's goons, at least at the beginning. And it's a big mystery about who this is. It's the focus of the book. Batman wants to solve this mystery. And there's a suspicion set up early on that it's actually Harvey Dent, because there's a triumvirate between Batman, Commissioner Gordon, Harvey Dent, and they make a pledge to bring down Falcone, but it's almost impossible to do legally. And while you would think, out of the two guys in the suits and the one guy in the giant bat costume, that Batman might be the unhinged one who won't play by the rules, it's actually Harvey Dent. And we get this great conceit from issue to issue. The killer in this is called Holiday because on specific holidays throughout the year, like he basically picks a holiday in a month and he whacks another one of Falcone's men. So, issue by issue, you get a different holiday. We start out on Halloween, we go to Thanksgiving, then from there to Christmas. So every issue has its own theme, which is great. They play around with different villains in different settings. It's kind of wild. And like I said, the story itself is really good. It's nice. It's a nice Godfather-type mob movie, only with a superhero twist. And like I just said, just to me, as a guy who's unfamiliar, who's catching up, just surprisingly good comic book art. And specifically comic book, like it's not trying to be anything other than comics. And that always grabs my attention. Because too often these days, I see comics that are trying to work their way into movies or work their way onto Netflix. And they might have a good story and, at least competent looking art, if not a little boring, but the pace doesn't feel right. It does in this. This is like 100% comics. It's fast when it needs to be and slow when it needs to be and doesn't confuse the two. It's not trying to wait you out until the 30-minute mark in the movie before it gives you anything good to watch, because it knows that you paid for your ticket and you're not going anywhere for at least that first 30 minutes. It gives you like the stuff you want to see in a hard-boiled noir Batman story at the rate you want to see it, which is impressive. It's something that I have difficulty with. I think probably something that a lot of people have difficulty with. And an interesting thing, reading through this that I wasn't aware of, and again, you can call me a dumbass if you like. It's kind of apt in this situation. I didn't realize how much of the Dark Knight movie was based on this book. And it's an awful lot. I mean, it's a thick book. It's 12 issues. And I think 12 long issues at that. So there's a lot of room for different events to occur. But it surprised me just how many of, the memorable moments from Dark Knight were from this book. Anyway, that's The Long Halloween. It's pretty fucking great. I don't think I can do an issue-by-issue breakdown on the channel, unfortunately. I'd love to, but it seems like the original volumes, like getting the floppies, is almost impossible by the looks of it. So I don't know. I could go through the trade here, but I'm not a huge fan of that. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you want me to do that. But as far as this video goes, anyway, that's going to do it. I've got at least one more horror story, like actual horror story, that I can touch on. We'll see if I can find one more, but for this one anyway, that's going to do it. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.